genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats,
interjection number 2,
and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your
Well, I won't
desk?
have to because, again, 2 things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talked
They're letting
about
this man
abortion.
ramble.
But if I could
Jesus
just get
Christ.
a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me. But I really didn't.
Woo, my God.
We
Oh,
don't
they
have
got
to
him.
discuss it because she'd never be able to get it. Just like she couldn't get student loans, they couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans.
Called his VP
They
a liar.
Young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give
Called
you
his VP a liar.
Would you support
Oh, no.
any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question, would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor.
Abortions
governor
after
of
birth is
Virginia.
crazy.
The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
Oh, she's baiting
And I
him.
will tell you, the
He's
one thing
baiting
you will
him.
not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is
That's
what's
been debunked,
happening
by the way.
in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far
That was not
as
an illegal
the
immigrant.
reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this,
seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
The people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that. Maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people are
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. You know, this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term.
She's destroying him.
And
I ain't gonna
when
lie.
we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people were just killed, viciously and violently killed, and I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the
Yeah,
Vice
no, she's
President
killing
has
this man.
reacted to
She's
as
kind of
well.
killing this man.
President Trump
One good
called
zinger.
this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah. It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow, and I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall
Didn't
violent
even
crime
answer
is
the
actually
question.
coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris, I'll
FBI
give you
they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president,
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a
President
fake
Trump,
Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that
to get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down. And name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many
fraction of
billions.
400 million is
and
still
when
a lot.
people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and
Isn't that a good
everybody's
thing?
laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies, like She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Don't lie.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do
He might have gotten her.
transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of it. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400,
President
500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get to.
environment,
We're
as she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president.
She might be
in
a
moment
little
of
bit too
crisis.
reserved.
Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about it. An election is fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we
Why are they
lost.
letting him
If you look
roll
at the facts,
this?
and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror, and they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually.
Horrible terror.
They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it. that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right, look, that was a bit on the tough side there. She's doing pretty decently. However, I think the problem is that I don't know why they're letting this man like just not necessarily cut in, but well, no, essentially like basically cut in is crazy. Let's see what Brian is Brian up, or is he? Oh, he went on commercial break already too. All right, well. Well, is there anybody that's gonna? They're probably not going to talk about it. All right, but look, like she's doing pretty decently, and like she go to him that one time. Like that was a cool little setup she did when she was like clearly baiting that man to come in. The fact that they got this man Trump to sit there and basically say that his vice president is a liar is crazy. That's just wild to me, bro. She said, he said that you said that you would, veto a bill, right, if it came to your desk. He said, well, I haven't talked to him about it. He's basically saying the man's a liar. That's crazy. Let's see if they're saying anything crazy. Oh no, they just random news stuff. Let me just make sure there's no. Okay. But that little clip, that thing that he did where he was just like, excuse me, I'm talking, right? When he was sitting there obviously mimicking her. Yeah, that was obviously a play move. That one I can see the conservatives, the our side like sitting there like really like pulling up as a means of joking or whatever, like the show, like he's like obviously owning her and dominating her. And right now the perception is because the moderators are doing a horrible job right now. Like they are letting this man run through like the whole debate. Like it's crazy. Dang. It's always crazy when you see like a whole building just disintegrate basically. Hold on, I'm just trying to look at something here real quick. Okay, it does show 3 different. Oh, that's interesting. All right. Oh, sorry, I was just a tad bit distracted here. Don't mind me. But I don't know. This is kind of like it is actually sort of kind of in between. Like you could probably say that Harris is running him a bit more than the other way, but just the fact that he keeps on just getting so much airtime or so much time to speak well over her and basically pushing her to the side is a good strategy. It's working for him because it's keeping things, it's making things look balanced. Because remember, right, you don't necessarily know unless you know. I bear with me, right? Unless you know, you don't know exactly what's being truthfully told and what's lying. So giving him oxygen, unless the moderators sit there and say, well, no, that's not true, you don't necessarily know, or you don't know the full story, right? And so that's the problem. That's that's a major problem. They're letting him continue to speak essentially whenever he wants. If I'm not mistaken, he was able to actually interject one time when Harris was speaking. If if I recall correctly, right? Or it might have been just as soon as she was fishing. I think that's probably what he was just also probably prepped ahead of time. Like, don't attempt to interrupt her because she'll get you with the zinger, with the little I'm speaking thing, but look for an opportunity to do that yourself type of scenario there. So I don't know. It's a bit in between. So this is debate number 2. So there'll be only one more debate after this. I would say this nudges depending on how the clips come out of this nudges a little bit in Harris's favor. Harris is doing a really good job. And it could be a difference of goal. Maybe this is not the one where they want to beat them down, right? They want to make sure they get a good picture of her out this debate, and then next debate, right? Then maybe start drilling him on like he's lying to you, right? And go to him like that. So we'll see.
Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it
Won't
done.
answer the question.
Negotiate a
He
deal,
won't answer the
because
question.
we have
Cut
to
his mic.
stop all of
What
these
happened to the
human
muted
lives
mics?
from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President
It's showing how unhinged he is, though.
Well,
So,
first
I
of
mean,
all,
it works
it's
either way.
important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. and I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, 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 and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr.
Those
President,
dates,
you
right?
recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's
2 years later?
I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times.
Oh yeah.
Calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park Five.
Mm-hmm.
Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up, Lindsay.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country, one who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump-
no, the
President
former
Trump-
president has said
No, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
I
We're
just
going
need
to move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this is
multiple
now
times.
your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand.
Oh, yeah, she got him.
When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we, over the last 4 years, have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed, for the first time, Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it,
Vice
pass as
President
prologue
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
She
lot
made a
of...
mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance
Jesus
that have
Christ.
worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
I don't believe this right now. I really don't. I really don't even know what to make of it. Hold on, let me mute this. I really don't know what to make of this right now. Is anybody else on by chance? Like, this to me is kind of crazy. It really is. It really is kind of crazy, because it's like, they're allowing this man to just ramble over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's just it's crazy. Let's see what what's his face got going on here.
Hey, maybe they could affect the video game industry. Could make things more expensive, yeah. Theoretically.
Okay, he's not talking nothing about
All the tariffs that every tariff plan he's got is going to drive up prices. He denies it, but it will. The problem with Trump is like his plan is to never leave office, and it's like you can't destroy all of these things and not leave office. Like it's gonna like people are gonna realize that you're the problem.
Shoot, what happened?
Eventually.
Hold on.
Trump supporters
Where'd it go?
the only reason
Where'd
why
it go?
Trump supporters and MAGA are able to play the game of it's not us, it's them is because usually power rotates. But
There
if
we go.
Trump's the one in office forever,
And I
he
think
won't
she's
be
done
able to
that.
sit there and deny it.
She has not collapsed the way, Joe Biden did. But she's not convincing. She's merely, and she's.
AC off right
I feel like I'm being lectured by my aunt. Is how I feel. I do not feel warmth. I do not feel leadership. I feel she's doing the best she can with the tools that she has and the way she was coached for this moment. But I'm not feeling leadership saying I trust that leader to go negotiate around the world. I don't trust that leader to go negotiate with Congress. That's not what I'm feeling. And once again, he's getting poked at him, and he is staying short of full fury. And I think he's doing a very good job, responding and reminding us what the truth of what was happening.
Vinny.
If you had to guess, who do you think's winning? Like, if you, what do you feel that the American people right now are feeling?
That's not how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at independence. If I'm thinking independence, 70-30 to have Trump ahead. I don't care about the American people, left or the right. MAGA's not changing, and the progressive left's not changing. The independent 70-30, they're with Trump right now.
Okay, and then Adam, you were talking about the women with the abortion.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, not the men.
They're not. No, what I'm saying
they're
is
not doing it. Just the
unless-
women.
But what I'm saying is, do you think that that's shifting at all, or it's
Nah.
or any of those
Nah.
women going to vote for Trump?
What are you asking?
I'm at, like, from tonight, from listening to what
Yeah,
he's
where are you
talking about
going? What are you
about
thinking?
abortion and stuff.
Mutech Munit.
I don't know. I'm just thinking. I just feel like the way that she's performing right now, everybody tomorrow, from the Bill Maher's and they're gonna put her on a pedestal and make her seem like she's the second coming. She's gonna be the savior. I'm telling you right now. I'm getting messages right now like, oh my God, our boy's not doing good. Oh my God, he's failing. Like, I got 4 messages in a row saying that Trump is losing the debate.
Okay, Adam.
Really?
I'm
So-
dead serious. I just got another one.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm getting text that
Okay.
Trump is losing.
I think there's only one time that Trump kind of lost his cool, and that's what I was sort of saying. Can Trump just keep it cool, bro? You saw with Biden. I mean, Biden is literally.
This isn't the same fight, though.
Crumbling.
There's two different fighting styles make fights.
Yes.
This is a different style
It's
of
a totally
fight.
different
This
style of
is-
fight. He can't
the
go
other
on
one,
the
you don't
attack
have to
mode.
do anything.
I thought he was gonna bring up the vice president.
John.
Guys, let me tell ya.
6 seconds, it was over with. This is going
That vice president little snippet thing, that one's gonna be big.
knockout.
Watch what I tell you. Watch what I tell you.
He's not.
That
gonna
vice
knock
president
out.
one's
He's
gonna be
doing okay.
big.
This
Yeah.
thing's coming back right here.
I didn't talk to him
There's
about
only
the
one time
issue.
he lost his cool when he's like, "You're gonna take the guns and you're gonna all that kind of stuff like that." You even were like, "Oh, chill out, bro." She's a viable opponent, but she's not a viable candidate, if that makes sense. She's not likable. She's not that smart. She's just doing talking lines. She's a DEI
Jesus
candidate.
Christ.
Respect. I get it. This is what the Democratic Party is at this point.
Well,
And she could beat Trump. Where I'm at with Trump right now is he is so much more qualified than he was 8 years ago. I understand why people, dude, 8 years ago, it's crazy. No way, Trump. He knows what he's doing.
The
at this
guitar
point.
sounded
He's gonna
like-
have people around him at this point.
My bad,
Are there
folks.
things that she's doing better at, namely the abortion issue and a couple other issues? Yes. She has the Democratic machine behind her, and she also has mainstream media behind her. How many times has the moderators interrupted her?
Okay, they're
It's
coming
Trump
back.
against the world at this point. And, you know,
Close this.
she's saying that he's a disgrace, and he's saying that she's destroying America.
So I think you've heard tonight two very
Oh, it's a wrapping up already?
visions
Okay.
for our country.
Damn, it's been 4
One that
hours?
is focused on the future.
Oh, no, they were
and the
streaming
other
earlier.
that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together. That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for
She's
3.5
vice president.
years. They've
She's
had
vice
3.5
president.
years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country,
Wait, what?
and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Gave our military away to the
And that is the
Taliban?
end of
That's
the
crazy.
First presidential debate.
Let's see if
between
they do a good review, like a good dialogue, like how CNN did. I'm be curious to see what's the panel going to say, if there's a panel.
candidates. We have been watching alongside our full team of analysts and, of course, each of our reporters who covers the campaigns. Laura Barone-Lopez has been reporting on the Harris campaign and Lisa Desjardins on the Trump campaign. I want to begin with you two before we turn to everyone else here, and let's just get your quick takeaways. The candidates' work here is over now. The surrogates and the campaigns take over. What are you hearing from them in terms of how they saw the debate and their takeaways? Laura?
Well, Harris's campaign is feeling really good about this debate. They feel as though they did a number of things that she wanted to do going in, which was
Define
goad
herself.
him, and she did that on quite a few fronts. She did that on abortion. She did that on election denialism, and they said also that in the first hour of the debate, 71% of the grassroots donations that they were getting were from women. So they feel as though some of her strongest moments were when she was going after him on abortion and when she was talking about those personal stories of women who were having miscarriages and unable to get the care that they needed. And they also said that based on the undecided voters that they were tracking live during the debate, that the campaign was tracking, that another strong moment for her was her response when Donald Trump was questioned about her black identity and her saying that racism is a pattern for him and that America doesn't want this anymore, as well as her response to him on election denialism and January 6th. They said that ranked really well with the undecided voters.
Lisa, we knew that the Harris strategy was going to be to try to goad President Trump to going off script. What's the Trump campaign saying about some of
The
those
Trump
moments?
campaign knew that too. Former President Trump knew that. I will tell you, I have not heard from my Trump campaign sources, some of whom usually do text me back in situations like this. So that's a sign. The Trump campaign did put out an official statement declaring that Trump was the winner of this debate. There's been a lot of response when I posted that on social media, people saying they don't see it that way. But let's talk about other Republicans in Congress. I just got this from a Republican Senate source. They want to take back the Senate. They are very much in reach of doing that. Wrote me, I was in pain watching it. Imagine what Nikki could have done, talking about Nikki Haley. Trump just took the bait and missed the argument. When Vice President Harris talked about, for example, Wharton economists from his alma mater criticizing his economic plan, and then the size of his crowds really got under his skin, and you could see his tone and demeanor changing. Now, what Republicans in Capitol Hill thinks really probably doesn't matter. What matters is undecided voters. And we've been following voters throughout this campaign. We talked about it during the last debate. One of them, Zach Horn from Pennsylvania, Republican undecided voter, texted me this. He said, I've been moving toward Harris. Tonight's debate further confirmed that move toward Harris. He said, I am looking for someone to build a foundation of civility. Harris offers that. Trump does not. He says, tonight I could see her as a commander-in-chief. That's a big deal.
Well, let's bring in our panel of experts. We've got Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report with Amy Walter, Democratic strategist Amisha Cross, and Republican strategist Kevin Madden. Amisha, there was a question heading into this debate about how much Kamala Harris, the degree to which she would engage directly with Donald Trump, and how much would she really speak beyond the debate stage directly to the American people. She did both.
Yeah, absolutely. Kamala Harris had a high ceiling to clear and a very delicate balance because she is a part of the current administration. But she was also able to not only set herself apart, but to lean in on the policies that matter the most to the American people. She talked about the economy. She talked about the middle class. She talked about housing. She talked about women's reproductive rights. But she also attacked Trump hardcore. She went after him on statements about January 6th, what he didn't do and what he should have done. She went after him on a lot of the rhetoric that he's utilized over time, in large part the divisiveness, the darkness, the lack of a path forward, the way that he's trying to take America back. And she hit him hard on his own criminality. For him to start, radicalizing and talking about the tropes that he's issued in about migrants, but then to slam him down about the things that he's currently facing. I thought that was a really, really hard hit.
Kevin, your assessment of how the former president did tonight.
Look, usually at these debates, I have like a very complex analysis, right? Multi-layered analysis. I think mine is very simple here. This was a clear case of a very clear strategy beating no strategy. The Harris strategy here was so apparent from the beginning, which is connect with swing voters on every single issue that matters to them as best she can. Housing, cost of child care, I think the abortion issue, which of course we know is important to a lot of suburban women that are going to decide this election. Also, bait Trump into talking about himself and relitigating his past grievances. Trump took that bait every single time. And he didn't connect on a lot of issues. He did probably his best on immigration, but I will tell you, I think for a lot of voters out there, it was less relevant to their experience, and it was more about Trump being agitated and making it more about Joe Biden and what Joe Biden did wrong. So it just felt like there were a lot of lost opportunities here for Trump to really fill in the blanks with a lot of voters about why Kamala Harris would be sort of out of the mainstream. And instead, I think what you're going to see now is a strategy of, and we're already seeing it, We're seeing a strategy of blaming the moderators for sort of putting a thumb on the scale when it came to fact checks. And I just don't think that is going to connect. We got to remember, we're in like essentially what is a European version of a snap election. And the compressed time schedule means that any advantage right now is really going to make a difference. And I think right now you have to say advantage Harris with swing voters.
Which is interesting because Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, you could argue, Amy, both came into tonight's debate with the same goal, which is to try to find any edge they could to change the dynamics of this razor-thin race. I saw you shaking your head when Kevin was talking about Donald Trump's unforced errors and the missed opportunities.
Right. So this was also about trying to fill in the blanks for somebody who's not as well known, and that's Kamala Harris. And I think both sides have been saying this for a while now. It's both a risk and an opportunity to not be as well defined as the vice president is. The opportunity for Trump in this was to fill in those blanks, attach her to the Biden presidency and to some of her past statements. He did that, but in a very scattershot way. I wrote down the first time he said Harris is Biden was 10:24 p.m. So it took over. Yeah,
exactly.
It was an hour into it. Harris, from the very beginning, was on offense and making him the incumbent. When we talk about, voters wanting to see a change, she talked about turning the page. What is this election going to be about? I'm the one that's turning the page. He's the one back on grievance. So she did what she wanted to do. To Kevin's point, she converted on the strategy that she had put forward. He was supposed to go in there and make this connection between Biden and Harris, make her look out of the mainstream. He was not as strong on that, in part because he was spending so much time either defending himself or, as folks have pointed out, relitigating past grievances.
Well, Lisa, to that point, and Amy's mentioning the issues here, like two of the strongest issues for former President Trump are the economy and immigration. And after the first set of questions on the economy, it was really the immigration issue. He returned to again and again and again. He really didn't come back to some of those economic points that are relatively strong for Republicans.
It is interesting that Vice President Harris invited people to go to a Donald Trump rally, because I will say that
Okay, so I am on the side. What's going on, Brian? I am on the side. I'm glad I even tipped over, because I was like, hold on, I bet you. I'm on the side of, let me lower this down a bit here. I'm on the side that Harris did pretty decent. Not as great as I was hoping for. She zinged them something crazy. My guy, you missed I'm sure you saw my message, right? The, God, what is it called? That moment. I mean, yeah, I just muted it entirely. That moment where the moderator asked him that, hey, JD Vance said that you were going to veto the abortion ban. And he was like, well, I ain't actually talked to him about that. So basically, calling this man a liar. I was just like, bro, this is unreal right now. This is unreal right now. This is unreal right now. Start looking towards the internet, because these are the two major clips that's going to be coming out. That where he basically called his vice president a liar, and then the part where for the Republican side, that moment where he was just like, oh, sounds familiar, when he was hushing her, telling her that I'm speaking, and they'd be like, oh, does it sound familiar? That kind of thing, a little weird little gesture thing, just because she's done that in the past, I guess, in some other debates or whatnot. They're going to use that a lot on the Republican side, but that vice president one, bro, that vice president one about to be something terrible. That clip, they clipped that one right. That vice president one's going to be something crazy. So those were the two, I could say those are your two biggest moments between the two. You think she did decent though? I think she tackled and saw all of Trump's weird ass tactics. Yeah, she did pretty good. And I thought for a moment that she was going to get a little bit unrattled when he did the little gesture thing, basically mimicking her. But nah, she composed herself pretty well. And then the way she kept goading that man, there was one moment, God, it's just because it was just so much I was sitting there paying attention to. there was one moment where like it was clear as day she was trying to goat the man, and he took the bait like of course he would. And I'm trying to think of like what it was. Cause there was quite a couple of them actually, but there was just like one moment where it was like really clear that she was like clearly trying to bait him, and of course this fool's gonna take it, and sure enough, like he did. But yeah, no, the debate was pretty decent. I want to say that Harris did decent, not as great as I would have wanted, only because I think the strategy might have been more so for her to define herself to people versus calling out Trump, because there was a lot of moments she could have gave Trump a taste of his own medicine and basically say he's lying about this, lying about that, or whatever, or even just asking clarifying questions like or basically saying that he didn't answer the question, right? When he was asked like, are you going to like, is it in the U.S. interest for the Ukraine war for the Ukrainians to win on the war? He wouldn't answer that question. It was just stuff like that. Like if she had just interjected to just zing him and be like, you see, he ain't want to answer the question, that would have been a killer. But instead I think she was more so focused on making sure that she defined herself good. Because I think the next debate, she might very well then start going in for the kill shot. I think that's probably the best strategy they could have. Define yourself now, because there's still a significant chunk of the independent voters that are that don't know too much about her. And once you have that, once you got now your persona or who you are defined your way, and not letting Trump trying to find something weird to stick to you, then you can go ahead and now you could just focus on just drilling on him. Because I think that third debate, if she does that, if she just drills in on him when this man doesn't want to answer the question, or like when he's lying, stuff like that, and just keep zinging him, especially when he doesn't answer the question like that you can tell that he be struggling a lot with that. Like when people circle back to what he's saying, because what he's used to doing, he's used to people asking him a question and then he like throwing all these different things and stuff that have nothing to do with it, right? And then like you just move on because you just want to move on. You don't even want to do it, right? When you see like those rare times when they do circle back to ask him yes or no, like the Obamacare thing, like she was like, bro, like it's been 9 years, do you have a plan? He you could tell he made something up on the spot when he was like, oh well, I have a, like after being asked like 3-4 times, I have a concept, we have a couple of concepts of like, and I was just like, bro, like there's no way. In my mind I'm just like, bro, like you basically 9 years and you still don't have an Obamacare replacement that you could talk about. I was like, bro, that is the secret sauce to defeating Trump. That's the secret sauce to defeating Trump. Circle back to when he doesn't want to answer the question, because he's on the public stage. He has to say something. He has to give something. And if he can't answer the question, it's a wrap. It's just a huge wrap. Oh my God, bro, where's my mouse? I was gonna say, why is my mouse like messing with me like that? Oh yeah, that was what it was. When she said that whatchamacallit? Bro, what the hell was it called? What was it called? It was about the rallies. When she was like, oh, if you watch, when she invited people to go to his rallies, and she says how like people were leaving, like after it started and stuff, I was like, oh, she's definitely 1000% goading this man into like saying something crazy. And then of course, right, he took the bait, right? He took the bait and started rambling all about her rallies and stuff, bro. That was a key. That was definitely a key moment here. Hold on, let me see. Hold on. Okay, so that is, I see one message here, but I can't see it on the other one. Let's see. Oh man, everybody was starting to chat. How's the stream stability? Hey Xylos, the stream is doing good. Everything looks good. Like I said, we fixed up a lot of stuff, so it looks like it's working pretty well. And let's see. I don't think I have anything else going on here, right? I don't know why it looks this way. Oh, because it's backwards. It was backwards. My bad. I didn't even realize it was going backwards like that. Let's see. What about the dogs being? Oh yeah, I was just like, dog, there's no way. That is a very cute picture. Yeah, I was like, bro, there's no way he's really pushing that. I was like, I was like, bro, that was debunked. Like it was the thing with like somebody eating a cat or whatever. So like eating the cat thing, I believe like did happen. It wasn't an illegal immigrant, and I believe it was somebody that was like on some type of drug. The last time I seen something like that was what was it? What was that? And of course my phone gonna crash here. Let me plug this back in. But the last time like we had a situation where like somebody was like eating something alive was back when like we had that person that was on like bath salts. I think he snorted bath salts or something like that. Like, so just so we're clear, right? There are drugs out there that essentially probably turn you into cannibalism. And then my understanding is that the lady, I think it was lady, it might have been a lady, like there was a cat that died on the pavement or something, and then she started eating it or whatever, and her family member just called the police and was like, yo, she's clearly on drugs, y'all need to come get her. Clearly. But oh my gosh, yeah, of course I want to break when I'm doing stuff here. Yeah, she was so please don't do drugs. All right, for the love of God, don't do drugs. You never know what it'll do to you. Let's see. What about he's losing it? It's such a he's definitely unhinged. You can see it in his face. He's definitely unhinged. And we was looking at the PBD podcast where like whatchamacallit was saying he was getting text messages saying that his boy's not doing well, and that brought a little smile into my heart right here. Cause I was just like, Brev, like that perfect. We're coming back, baby, right? We need Trump to get politically packed up so we can rebuild the party and hopefully have like some real politics or real movement towards the American dream for the American people going forward once we get the Trump people up out of here. What about the transgender illegal aliens? Oh my gosh. Brev, You know what's crazy? So this is why, like, you know, these people get paid a lot of money. This is why these people get paid a lot of money and are so much smarter than I probably initially give them credit for. If you remember, there was that argument about trying to keep the mics alive, right? And the thing that frustrated me was that clearly they won't be muted, right? Because the man kept on interjecting or kept on being able to speak whenever he wanted. And at first I was worried that, it was looking like he was just taking control and owning the whole thing. But the fact that they wanted the mics live and then he made it live himself, basically, like actually shows me exactly why they planned that. Bro, like the type of stuff that this man was just sitting there saying was just crazy. Like some of the stuff, again, right? Not answering the questions and just trailing off into other stuff. And then when he was getting hit with the circle backs, bro, it was just terrible. It was terrible. So like, I don't know. I didn't know we had transgender aliens, transgender illegal aliens, but it is. Yeah. He didn't. The whole point of why his team fought for the mics to stay muted was to prevent what he did. And he was just like, nah, this is going to do that. And the thing I really like it is, what's so great about that? Here's what's so really good about this. Like, hear me out. Okay. Look at this. All right. All the Trump supporters, all the big main Trump supporters, probably like Elon Musk, right? The PBD podcast, especially the PBD podcast, because they were saying some other stuff like, bro, like, yeah, if y'all believe that, okay. But here's the beauty of this, okay? All of them are going to cope and tell a man he's doing great, where the rest of us clearly see that he's not. Did you see that hand? Oh, wait, they shook hands? Did they shake hands? I probably looked away because I was more or less done with it. But I did not see the hand. Let me see. I can go back, right? Oh yeah, we sure can. Come on. Did they shake hands? What handshake you what handshake you talking about? Was that like on a different stream or something? Because I didn't see Oh, you talk about the very beginning But did they shake hands in the very beginning? Because I might have missed that one too. I probably did because remember, I was like slightly late on trying to get the stream up. Work was really had me late. Here we go. Let me see. Yeah, I don't remember seeing. Did anybody shake hands during the day? During the day. Oh, Jesus Christ. Let me see that. What is that? What is that? Why does he? Why did he bring it in so close to his chest like that? That's just weird. That I hate using that word, but now that one is just that is just weird. Like, why does he lead it? Is he really trying to just show? You know what it is? He was trying to go for like a photo op. He was trying to show him towering over. It's like that. I ain't gonna lie. That was strange. That was actually pretty strange. I ain't gonna lie to you. Brav. I gotta look at it one more time because I just gotta make sure I'm understanding. I'm understanding the purpose behind that. Did he really? Oh, maybe he's just naturally just tiptoes. I don't know. The guy's weird. You think she did? Let's see. Well, but that's that. Is there anybody talking any good stuff about the debate? I wonder. Here, let's see what these goobers got going on. This would be really good.
Around temperament and Trump's temperament really frustrates me. That adage, mean tweets, world peace. I think any of us who are logical and actually look into the but it's so frustrating that we need to cater to people in a way and need to tell Trump to guard his temperament or censor him in a way just to make him more palatable for something that should be so obvious as soon as somebody does just more than 2 seconds of research. So what I just really hope comes from this is that those independent voters, the people who would have gone for RFK or anybody else, I just hope that they look point by point into every single question that was asked, look at the policies.
They won't do that.
They won't do that.
They won't do that.
That's not a thing.
You're living in a logical world. We're not in a. Let me just.
They're mad.
Okay, this is from New
They're
York
mad.
Post. Trump surges 14 points with independents. Latinos shift 19 points in Trump's favor. Okay, Rob, if you want to pull this up. Trump's gained momentum among key voters groups, surging 14 points with independents, leading Harris 49-46, still close, and 19 points with Latino voters, leading now 51-47, reversing his prior deficits in the demographics. These gains followed RFK Jr.'s endorsement of Trump and Harris's warning post-nomination boost. The poll
So that's right after
close
RFK.
national race,
I was about
with
to fact check
Harris
that
edging
one.
Trump 49-48 in a multi-candidate contest. However, Trump leads on key issues like immigration, economy, Middle East. Harris dominates on abortion, favored by voters seeking change. Voter perception remained divided, with Harris leading Trump by 15 points among women and Trump ahead 12 points with men. So this is, I don't know. I think here's what's going to happen. So she leaves. When do you think is the next time she's going to do a town hall or a debate or podcast? What do you think she's going to do?
Nah.
Like between now and election day, actually, how many interviews, town halls, and podcasts do you think she's going to do, Tom? Between now and November 5th? You think it's zero? I don't think it's zero, but what do you think it is?
I think it's zero. I think they're going to keep running her out to these rallies. To what they.
You think it's going to be to hold the wire on her ears? Oh, I'm so busy. I'm so talking to my investors, and I'm talking to all these world leaders around the world.
Look, she did okay tonight, as far as they're concerned. They don't want to screw that up. So why put her in front of the media to get a performance like you've seen in the past? Why put her out to have a word salad that she's done in the past or say something dumb? You're going to run her out at all these rallies and just keep her on the road, doing the rallies like this, avoiding people. She's not going to sit down for an adversary interview. If she does, it's only because they gain confidence tonight that they can prep her to the point that she can get through it. But I don't think that's the case. If I was managing her and I'm thinking like them, I would be like, hey, we got through tonight. Don't screw this up. What do you think?
I think they're going to take that strategy. I think they are. But here's, if you notice, the media, even on the left, lost their cool and their frustration when they're like, she doesn't want to talk to anybody.
New York Times was very frustrated.
So I don't know. I don't know. Like when she said, don't go to his rallies. You think she's gonna do any rallies between now and the end of the year? You think she's gonna do any rallies between November 5th?
When she said not to go to his rallies.
Gonna be after here, go on
She said go to
vacation,
him.
relax, don't show your face, do nothing.
No, go to the small rallies and read off the teleprompters. But don't sit for a dynamic adversarial interview with the media.
Yeah,
I have
And change your accent based on the city.
Here's my question. The old, if I can go to Fifth Avenue and shoot someone, I won't lose a vote. What are the chances that Trump could literally do anything to lose someone who's already going to vote for him vote? I don't think that there's a very high, like, how many guys are actually voting for Trump in this room right here? Okay. All right. And then how many of you are actually going to raise your hand for Kamala and get beat up here? Who's going to? Okay. All right. Yeah, here we go. I don't think Trump's going to lose any MAGA votes. He has it. It's in the bag. So what's my point? He's got to take a different strategy for the last 60 days. Go only talk to women. Go to, what's the place that does all the abortion places?
Planned Parenthood?
Go to Planned Parenthood and hug women. Like, do something drastically blue ocean strategy different. You already have MAGA's vote. Why continue to do the exact same rallies to your actual base? You're preaching to the converted. Go find more people to convert to. Trump has his base. He's got it. Go find people who are like, yeah, I don't know about this guy. Go talk to them. Will he do it? We'll see.
Well,
like, what are the chances that Trump's losing your vote?
No, absolutely not.
Exactly. So why does he need to still talk to you? Go talk to someone else.
I said this a couple of days ago, PBD, on the Unusual Suspects. Ask anybody that was on the cast that's here. About 10 minutes ago, Taylor Swift just endorsed Kamala Harris. That right there, that vote, that independent, and it's on her Instagram. I just sent it to Rob. Taylor Swift said, like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. By the way, canned response by somebody else. If you haven't already, now is a great time to do your research on the issues at hand and the stances that these candidates take on the topics that matter to you the most. Okay, as a voter,
I don't think y'all understand how significant that is. Taylor Swift is gonna endorse Trump. Oh, I mean, Harris. Oh my God.
And plans of this country. Recently, I was made aware that the AI of me falsely endorsing Donald Trump presidential run was posted on his site. I really conjured up my fears around AI and the dangers of spreading misinformation. I brought it to the conclusion that I need to be very transparent about my actual plans for this election as a voter. The simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth. I will be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in 2024 presidential election. I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and the causes I believe need a warrior to champion them. Now we're talking about that independent, those people in the middle. How many Swifties follow her? How many? And
women who want.
And think about this. And earlier,
finish it. Keep
oh,
reading.
okay,
I want to read the whole tweet. Keep going.
My bad. Here we go.
I think she is a steady-handed, gifted leader, and I believe we can accomplish so much more in the country if we are led by common, not chaos. I was so heartened and impressed by your selection of running mate Tim Walz, who has been standing up for LGBTQ, IVF, and a woman's rights to own her own body for decades. I've now done my research. I've made my choice. Your research is all yours, and your choices you make. I also want to say, especially to my first-time voters, remember that in order to vote, you have to be registered. I also find it's much easier to vote early. I'll link where to register and find early voting dates and info in my story.
Hold on.
Perfectly.
With love,
Childless
go
cat
back.
lady.
Taylor Swift,
childless
cat lady.
What and I told you about the Democrats. What a fantastic tactical move. We were talking about the people in the middle, those girls, the Swifties. Earlier this year, didn't she say something to go out and register to vote? It was earlier this year. This is a major. By the way, who do you think wrote that? That was planned. It was timed perfect. The moment the debate was finished, and now this is what I'm talking about. How tactical these
They
people
are so
What a
mad.
gangster move. You want to talk about swaying a vote? How many followers does she have? How many followers? Hold on.
283 million.
280 million. How many do you think are going to go and register to vote right now because Swiftie told them to? Well, that's what I'm saying, guys. So they're playing a whole different. They're playing a whole different game. So.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Listen. I honestly, I would have kept this for a week out. I would have kept this week out. Right now, it's what, 7 weeks out? How many weeks out are we? 7 weeks out. Election, something like that. I would have kept it for a week out, 2 weeks out. This is pretty big. It doesn't get bigger than like who's going to come into like Kardashian? Who's going to come in and do something? Like who are you going to get that? Is going to have this is their #1 draft pick for Hollywood.
I actually think it was a stupid move to do it on the exact same day that everyone's
Waste
talking about.
Waste of a card.
Yeah, like you want to do that, boom, when nobody's talking about.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you why that was actually a very, very big boss move right there. Because if you remember, right, there's a lot of Republican effort right now. Our party is doing a lot to sit there and keep people from voting. So you would not do the strategy that they're saying, sitting there trying to use like a big power play like Taylor Swift close to the end of the election, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to get caught up. Yeah, see, red pill copium. You're going to get caught up in like some weird technicality where you're not able to vote because you didn't do this or that, or some like really strange rule or something that they're sitting there and they're pumping out. You do this now, you use a big motivator like Taylor Swift now, and the people can go through whatever weird hoops and stuff that's going on right now to be able to register, because you need to do that now, not wait till a month out from the election. You need to do it now so that way you can be sure that you are going to be able to vote when you can. And then for the states that do allow early voting, did my shit crash again? Brev. To sit there and once you sit there and you get your registration and stuff, and you get the early voting for the places that allow you to do it, you do the early voting and it's done, right? You don't have to worry about nothing crazy happening on election day. The more time you have to vote, the better. And so that's why for me, I would sit there and I would argue, yeah, there we go. I would sit there and argue that no, this was a boss move right here. They did exactly what they needed to do and brought Taylor Swift out now. Because now, right, nothing bad happened during the debate. Trump's clearly looking unhinged and stuff, and she's leveraging that, right? She's leveraging if you was in the camp, here's another like boss move that they did by doing this as well, right? If you was in the camp like I sort of kind of was, where it's like, the debate is like, right? Clearly Trump is unhinged and she did good. She ain't do as good as I was thinking she was going to do. So I'm like, right? You get a voice like Taylor Swift to like clearly after watching this and sit there and say that, oh, it was just absolute garbage on the Trump side. You're like, oh, okay, you know what? Yeah. So I guess kind of like what I was feeling, right? So yeah, I'm gonna definitely go to, Harris style, right? All genius play. They're coping. And this is what I'm saying. This is great. This is great that they are coping with all of this right now, because like I'm telling you, Trump did good. Trump was like, killing her, over talking, all that good stuff. That's going to make it back to Trump. And what's Trump going to do? He's going to keep doing the same thing instead of doing what he needs to do in order to actually make it. And that's exactly what we need. We need Trump to just continue doing what he's doing, which is whatever the hell he wants, and watch the man steamroller. Because I'm telling you now, one more debate left. As far as I recall, right? Because it's supposed to be 3, and he had the first one with Biden, right? Now the second one was with Harris. This third one, right? Should be the last one. All she has to do now is just, now that she's defined herself, got her, policies and stuff, all that, all good. Now she needs to start attacking his weakness, because see, they're setting them up. The people like them, like the PBD podcast, I'm sure Tim Pool, all those other people that are Russian funded, by the way. As you see, we're going to slowly change our well, we'll check the date right now. We're going to change our hashtags. I want to make sure everybody knows I'm a Republican, not funded by Russia. Let's see. When's the next presidential debate here? We are. You know what? I'm doing it like as if I can't just come here. Next presidential debate. Let's see. 14 hours ago. Let's see. Tuesday, September 10th, blah, 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 June 27th, August convention, August 2nd. Okay. Proposed September 25th, unit mics. Bro, I wanted, okay, how many more? There are, wait, there's no way. There are no other presidential debates scheduled before the election at this point. The campaigns previously agreed to only 2 debates. The one hosted by CNN on June 27th, the other one by ABC on September 10th. Am I tripping? Hold on, what? There wasn't another debate? Oh no. Has also invited campaigns to participate. Oh, the vice president debate. Right. I mean, I remember that one, but there really isn't one more presidential debate? I don't know how I feel about that one. I thought there was a debate in Utah, though. The candidates have bypassed the tradition of 3 debates organized by blah, 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 which had overseen. The commission's 3 debates were scheduled to take place in September and October at the universities in Texas, Virginia, and Utah. It said this year's debates were agreed upon without any involvement by the commission. The commission was met with sharp criticism by both Trump, who has accused blah, 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 and by close advisors to Biden, who view commission procedures as outmoded and fussy. Oh, so they set that up. That's crazy. Because I was like, because I remember that the last debate was supposed to be in Utah. What happened? What the hell happened? How did I like? Let me make a quick prediction about this here. I wonder. That changes my whole perception about her strategy. Then her strategy was okay. But I don't think it was good enough. I think she was okay. So now like some of her actions are starting to make sense to me. With this in mind, she was being much more reserved and much more cautious than I would have liked. And now this makes perfect sense, because if she had did anything that looked kind of crazy on the last debate, then yeah, it would have essentially been a wrap. And I think this was probably, I think her method then was probably the one that made more sense and the safer way. Because I was really thinking there was going to be a third debate. But if there isn't going to be a third debate, then she set herself up to where she's probably going. She's going to win the election. It's just a question about how much. And so I think we can say we're almost like pretty good certainty she's probably going to win. She's almost certainly going to win. Long nothing crazy happens, right? She's going to win. I was really hoping though that was going to be a blowout. This debate didn't put her in a light where I could have told you that for sure, like 100% for certain, it was going to be a blowout. It might get close. We might very well still get a blowout where like it's undisputed. There's no close calls and nothing where it's like clear as day she won. So there's no fake votes or none of the other stuff that's, going to be like what they parroted. But yeah, no. She'll definitely win, I guess, at this point, as long as nothing happened. But I wonder if the campaign, in my mind, I feel like the campaign should take the risk and like get a third debate, like bait him into a third debate. Because this also then puts the all of the other you did really good stuff that they're probably telling Trump in a different light too, because now like he might feel like he could potentially not feel like he needs to. Yep, not paid by Russia. So I don't know how I feel about this one. It's like it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you want to, I am a high percentage kind of person. I like to go for things that like where you do what you can to make the odds as strong as possible. If you want to have the absolute strongest odds possible, if they do leave it just like this, I mean, she'll definitely win. Whoa, my microphone died on me. She'll definitely win. We just don't know by how much. Now, I really needed it to be a blowout. Let me just adjust my microphone here real quick, because that's what'll really like pack Trump away. If the election results can be like a massive blowout, There we go. If the election results can be a massive blowout, it'll be a done deal. Won't have to worry about nothing crazy happening. But if it's close, we're going to have some extra drama all the way to January 6th. So this is the prediction. Okay. If Harris wants to go for an absolute wipeout, right, they might bait him into doing a third debate. We'll see, right? If something happens to where he starts like looking really bad, he might start trying to push for a third debate. And then what he does at that third debate, if he's the one pushing for it, I have absolutely no idea. It's definitely going to be crazy. But if they're going to go for like a kill shot, they'll bait him for a third debate. If they don't do a third debate, she's going to win. She's going to win the election. It's probably going to be close in a few places, and there might be some initial drama up to January 6th. What happened January 6th will never happen again because we have somebody that's actually going to take the, the whole security stuff like seriously. So like those people, if anything crazy was to try to happen going up to January 6th, they're going to get stopped before they even get anywhere close. That's for sure. But that's exactly how all that's going to play out. And although there is one thing that we haven't talked about, Trump's sentencing in November. Remember, the judge took the extraordinary step of making him the special individual because of the election thing, which I thought, like I said, I was talking about this like a long time ago where I was like the governor or the judge really need to do something about it, right? And I'm glad that the judge is, right? Taking the election into consideration, they push his sentencing date past past the election day, right? So now the next thing is that if he gets packed up, if he gets politically packed up, loses the election and it's close, and then the judge sentences him to jail time. Although I think one of the benefits though is that with New York, you don't go to jail if you appeal. I think that's how it works. Like you only go to jail after your appeals are exhausted. So I guess he won't even if he gets sentenced to jail time, he won't actually physically be in jail, because that's be the next worry. If he loses and it's a close election where like they could push a lot of fake voter stuff and he gets sent to jail, oh my God, bro. People will lose their motherfucking mind. For sure, people will lose their motherfucking mind. But that probably won't happen. So at least that part we won't have to worry about. But the sentencing thing is going to be important. That's going to definitely weigh into like what kind of happens going forward, especially if he gets like some serious time. If he gets like 3-4 years or whatever. Because I'm trying to think. There's that one guy. Was it Manafort? Not Manafort. One of those other guys that was in New York that was sitting there like pushing off, because of the appeals and stuff, and then he finally got put to jail. I forgot what was the Trump guy? What was the Trump guy that just got put to jail? Let's see, Trump associate. I'm hoping these keywords work. New York jail. Alan Weisenberg. Was that his name? I'm hoping somebody tell me. I'm trying to. Wednesday to 5 months of jail for lying on an oath during his testimony. Oh yeah, okay. 76 also in handcuffs. Wait, but he pled guilty. No, I don't think this is the guy. It should have been somebody else. But that is not all that important, honestly. I cannot remember the guy's name. I remember learning about that cool little fact about New York, is that they can let you not go to jail while you're appealing, which I thought was kind of cool, I guess. But no. So that's that. Let me pull my microphone over here so I can like let my back get a break here. Jesus. Let's see what we got to go. What we're gonna do now here. Hold on. Let's see what else they got to say.
Everyone's talking about the debate. No one's talking about this. It's a PS. It should have been done Friday or Sunday, like boom, before the weekend, after the weekend, major story. I actually think it was a horrible decision. So,
but I mean,
more
horrible
cat ladies
decision.
for
But
you,
at the end of
Vinny.
the day, she's saying, look at the bottom, vote early, go do it now, and register. We can say in a week. By the time people register and do all that type of stuff, I think it's a perfect time, and leave it up to the Democrats to do something like that. Which is, listen, they got her. She's in the bag.
It's way too early. It is way too early. How many adults what?
I mean, Bubba, have you seen her
Voters?
concerts? Her concerts are
By the
full
way,
of dudes.
by the way, why don't we do this? Let's play the game. Okay, hang on. Let's play that game and say how many adults. Let's go through it. 283. How many are in America?
Her followers?
Out of the 283 million followers, how many do you think is in America?
No, I would say-
20%? Fine. Let's go. You guys want to do 20%?
I would say 40%, 30%.
Let's say 30%. Let's say 30%. That's 80 million. Out of the 80 million, how many are under 18 years old? Half?
I don't know, guys.
You guys want to say half? Say half. That's 40 million. Of the 40 million above 18 years old, how many were already going to vote for Kamala anyways?
The majority of them, yeah.
Okay. So of the 40 million that were already going to vote for Kamala, give me a percentage. It's not all of them. What's the percentage? 75%. So there's 10 million left. Of the 10 million that were not going to vote for Kamala, how many are just following them because they're a Trump fan and their kids follow Taylor Swift, so they follow and they like the music? How many of the 10 million are Trump guys and there's no way they're going to do anything? Half? I think maybe a little bit. Well, let's say half. What's left? 5 million. Of the 5 million, how many can be swayed to actually get up and go to work and vote and do their thing? How many of the 5 million? I think it's so much less, guys. I think it's so much. I think it's like 5%, to be honest with you. 250,000.
And Pat, if I can add this, she
really,
doesn't need,
that's the number. If you really break down the numbers all the way down to seeing that, put it 10%, 500,000. Okay, cool.
and the reality is, Pat, she doesn't need 1 million or 500,000. She needs 10,000 in Georgia.
That's what
I'm
I'm
saying.
saying.
5,000 in Nevada. You know, there's the
But
there's
by the way,
7 states.
that even makes it
Yes,
worse.
That's my point.
That even makes it worse and less relevant. So meaning a big name in a battleground state saying something is more valuable than a Taylor Swift. If you know what this would have been most important? You know what would have been very strategic if the writer would have said, I'm willing to do, you know, whatever specifically if you're in the following states.
Yes. I'm doing
please,
a concert in Georgia,
just
in Atlanta.
these 6 states.
Yes.
Just these 6 states. If they really want to get strategic, like look how RFK did it. RFK did what? Kept them on the ballot for 40 states, took them off the ballot for 10 states. That's super strategic. They wasted this Taylor Swift hit. This was actually very dumb.
It's
let's be clear too, right? Some of those states that he requested to get removed from, he got denied, and it's because like a lot of the paper ballots and stuff were already printed and whatnot. So that's not entirely true. Plus, I don't even know the reasoning for it because I'm pretty sure, like I said this before, right? The people that were voting for RFK were voting for RFK because they didn't want to vote for either Biden or Trump. So when Harris went into the picture, that already peeled off some of RFK voters, you know. And so now with RFK, but the thing is right, those people that didn't want to vote for Biden or Trump that went to Harris, all you got left now is the people that don't want to vote for Trump. And with RFK's name still on the ballot, right, those are votes that could have potentially went to Trump that are not going to go to Trump, is the way I see it, right? Because those were the only people that were ever voting for RFK. There's the ones that didn't want either of the two. So that, I don't think that was strategic. And then clearly, like, it also backfired a bit because he couldn't get his name removed in some of the other places that he did request. So I don't know.
Very dumb the way they did it. They could have done a better job than
I'm
this.
curious on how much they paid her. That's a lot of. You got to pay a lot for one. So people, how
Well,
much would it be for
Kelsey got paid $20 million by Pfizer to endorse the vaccine.
Of course. Oh,
So
these
did
two
John-
are beauties.
John Legend's
They're
out
both
there
beauties. But I mean, think about it. So Paul, I think Kim Kardashian gets, I want to say 5 to 10 million per. What kind of money are you getting to promote Kamala Harris on the night of the debate, right when it's over? That
By
money,
the way, Rolling Stone, look at this. Trump melts down, lies about migrants, eating cats after Harris trolls him. This is what they're saying. ABC, Taylor Swift. Boom. So they're spinning. The spin job is
we knew
officially
that.
here.
Mm-hmm.
So moderator David Muir. There's Trump coverage. Yeah. So anyways, we're gonna see. But I think this is early. I thought this was good for America, for them to see exactly where people are at. Everybody needs to go do their own due diligence. Amy, you are right. People should go do their own research and kind of see what's going on. Unfortunately, they're not going to be doing that. The closest thing they're going to be doing is the Instagram stories to see exactly what's going on, rather than going down through the policy. But at the end of the day, Trump's going to get up and work and do his part between now and then. The other side is going to try to play the games. We're going to see who's going to come up winning on November 5th. I will tell you guys one thing. In about a week and a half, I may make an announcement that we may have one of the biggest election night parties in the world. And I'm just telling you, and I'm talking outside of 2 parties that people will be hosting, I think we will be hosting the biggest election night with thousands of people being with us. It's contingent, one thing being done, that one of the biggest, something crazy happened today. I don't want to say anything. We have to wait about 7 days to find out. I will tell you once it's finalized, because that thing needs to be, there's this thing called the John Hancock. Once that thing is finalized and I make the announcement, everyone's going to lose their shit when I tell you what we're doing November 5th. But stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun for us. To everybody that joined us, to the millions of people that joined us on the live tonight, you're amazing. Again, Saturday, Fort Lauderdale, book signing. Come on down. The Academy book, first fiction book I've ever written in my life. just officially is being shipped out today. Rob, if you can put the link, if you support our podcast, go place the order, read the book. It is the one. I've written this book 13 and a half years. It's officially out. Today's the date. Go support us. Go to Amazon, order the book. And I'll be signing books on Saturday, 12 o'clock at Barnes & Noble. God bless everybody. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Okay, well, that was short and sweet. Okay, well. Ooh. Wait, Daily Wire was up?
These may look like dentures are part.
Eesh. Was the Daily Wire really? Let's see what they were saying.
First president who narrowed the gap between rich and poor, narrowed the gap between black and white. He never talks about it. He probably doesn't even know it. But he's the first guy to do that in 60 years.
And he is the first president in my lifetime to have his finger on the pulse of the price of a Fabergé egg. You know, he has two on his airplane.
One issue, that, right on this point, Drew, that didn't come up tonight, and it's a scandal it didn't come up, pertains to mass migration, which should have been the lion's share of the debate, and the moderators tried to gloss over that. But what especially they could have focused on was the drug crisis and fentanyl deaths, because this is something that it actually does affect people, even in the media, even in the fancy clubs, who know somebody, or at least know somebody who knows somebody who has died of a fentanyl overdose. And certainly people in the forgotten parts of the country know a lot of people who have experienced that. You know, there was a report that came out just today that Kamala, while running in 2020, signed a candidate questionnaire calling for the decriminalization of fentanyl. Wow. Not marijuana, not cocaine, not fentanyl.
Yeah.
And just this past year, what was it, 75,000 or thereabouts Americans died of fentanyl overdoses. Many, many more of drug overdoses overall. The numbers are ticking up again.
I don't think you should categorize fentanyl as an overdose.
It's a poison. Yeah. It's a poison. It's a poison. Yes.
Not an overdose.
And so the numbers are ticking up again. This is the poisoning.
So, by the way, just so we're clear too, fentanyl is an actual medication. It is an actual controlled substance. It's not a drug. It's not a drug like LSD, or and it's not like marijuana. How like marijuana was marijuana before it started being used for medicinal properties or medicinal purposes, right? Fentanyl was, my understanding, fentanyl is an actual medication that is used like in the medical field. So just so we're clear about that, it's not just some poison.
Permitted negligent and intentional killing of Americans doesn't come up.
Now, how it's ending up in the streets, I don't know, because I would have thought like kind of like morphine, right? It's kind of crazy that stuff like that is ending up in the streets, but hey, that's those drug cartels, man. Those drug cartels at the border. Too bad Trump tanked that border bill that would have added a lot of machines to help detect those drugs, man.
In the end, the magical power that Donald Trump has above all else, and this has been true since 2015, is he is a camera magnet, right? Wherever he goes, the cameras follow him. And what that means is that the only person who can really prosecute the case is going to have to be Donald Trump. It cannot be J.D. Vance. It can't. Right. I mean, we're all watching J.D., and J.D.'s doing a great job in a lot of these interviews. You watch him in these rallies, he's doing media, and it doesn't even make a dent. And the reason it doesn't make a dent is because the cameras can just ignore J.D. Vance. Unless he's saying something about Tucker Carlson and his friendly relations with Tucker or something, in which case they can use it against J.D. They're not going to talk about J.D. Vance. He's just not going to break through. The thing that Trump had that I think is the underrated superpower of Donald Trump is that he had broken through before he was ever running, right? He was one of the most famous people in the country before he ever declared for the presidency. And because of that, it meant that he had layers of insulation against whatever the media could throw at him, because everybody already had a preconceived notion of who Donald Trump was. He still has the capacity to do that, but it means that no surrogate can do the thing. Surrogates can do the thing for Kamala. She can send surrogates out there because she's a nothing. She's a nevis. She really is. She's just an empty suit. She's a nevis. She's nothing. And what that means is that she can send out surrogates to go change her positions willy-nilly, or go on the morning shows with Morning Joe and jabber about what a vibes candidate she is, and she can go into spice shops and hug people, and that'll be her entire campaign. No one on the right can do the job for him, which means the challenge is his. And so in a very singular way, this election will be won or lost by Donald Trump. Either he is going to singularly, in his own personage, prosecute the case against Kamala Harris, or it ain't going to get prosecuted. Yeah. Because the other problem that you got is that he can toss hundreds of millions of dollars into TV ads. And the question is, who watches local TV anymore? Seriously, this is a major problem. Like, you can throw that money down a rat hole, but the reality is the amount of money that's spent on local TV in, say, Pennsylvania on these TV ads, what's the ROI on that? Yep. It's not as easy to reach people as it once was, and the internet is super fragmentary. And so, their ballot harvesting operation better be top-notch. Yep. Their get-out-the-vote operation better be top-notch. I mean, let's start putting the pressure inside, for those of us who want him to win. Okay, it's time to start actually putting the pressure where the pressure needs to be for him to win. And in order for him to win, we can pressure the media. We always do that, and we should. That should not let up. The pressure should be on us from Harris. We'll do our job, right? That's our job. Our job is to keep the pressure on them. But the only people who can run the get out the vote effort are the people running the get out the vote effort. You can't do it, I can't do it, none of us can do that. The get out the vote effort needs to be top notch, no excuses. Donald Trump needs to personally prosecute the case, no excuses, because in the end, ain't gonna be excuses, because if she's elected, she's gonna wreck the country. She really will.
It's actually one of the questions from one of our dailywire.com subscribers is, will the VP debate have a significant impact? And it sounds like you're saying no.
Nope, not one iota. Does anybody remember Kamala Harris from the Mike Pence debate? They remember the
She was
fly.
talking.
They remember the fly in that debate more than they remember more than they remember
He was
Kamala.
great on the fly.
The fly is one of the big stars of our modern politics.
I mean, J.D. Vance will do very, very well in the
He'll do
debate. He'll be spectacular, and it won't matter at all.
Not one iota. Not one iota. The one thing that'll be hard for him now is that Tucker's created this issue for him, right? I mean, Tim Walz will for sure hit him on his friendship with Tucker, because Tucker had this schmuck pseudo-historian on who did this dumb routine about how Churchill was the villain in the Second World War. And that's just that's just an easy hit for Tim Walz. He'll go out of his way to do it. It was a dumb move by Tucker. It was damaging to the Republican cause for whatever that matters. And you know, JD will be asked about that without a doubt during that VP debate. Is that going to make any difference? Not really. He's the VP candidate. Who cares?
Yep. Another question from a dailywire.com subscriber, and you can become a subscriber at dailywire.com using promo code FIGHT for 47% off. That's 47 for 47. Obviously, we want Donald Trump to be the 47th president. Simple yes or no from the entire group. Do you think that the people of the United States actually believe her lies?
What lies? What lie? You know, they believe she wants to kill babies. She wants to kill babies. They believe that she'll adjust her policies based on whatever's convenient. She will do that. I don't think she cares that much about fracking. I think she just says what she thinks she needs to say. So
power.
Yeah, and so that she says that, they believe it, and they're all right, I guess.
I think that they don't believe her lies because they don't care. What I would say is that I think the Democrats, and right now I see it with like Mark Cuban, for example, I think that a lot of Democrats have the same feeling about her that for a long time Republicans had about Trump, which was take him seriously but not literally. Right, so they're taking her vibes seriously, and her vibe is, I'm not Donald Trump. I'm a lefty. I'm a typical lefty. I'm going to do exactly what a typical lefty does. Doesn't matter what she says. I mean, they openly say this, right? I mean, they'll go on TV and they'll be like, sure, she's lying about all of her positions, but she does have to get. Bernie literally said this weekend, right? Bernie went on national TV.
She's being pragmatic.
Yeah, right. She's changing all of her positions. She's being pragmatic, and that's what she should do. As a good Marxist, she should lie about everything, and then when she's elected, she can execute the kulaks, right? Like that's the.
I mean, a lot of voters, let's face it, are NPCs. They're non-playable characters.
Yeah.
You know, and in some ways, it's kind of healthy. You know, they grew up in the Democrat or the Republican Party. You stick to your family. You stick to the people around you. That's kind of the way it should be in a country that's not on the brink of collapse like this one. But normally, that's not a bad thing. But the people who decide the election because of that are the playable characters. And I think a lot of the playable characters will not believe her lies.
I do wonder
how is this guy talking about NPCs and playable characters? Like when these guys are like the most like ununique people imaginable. Like they all just like regurgitate the same just topics and just point of views across the board and just literally bounce off each other. Like if you could go into like any kind of video game where you just see like a bunch of just characters that just like aimlessly just talking stuff, this is what they do. They just said that they never give any like real substance, right? It's always just like these weird jokes against like, Biden, when Biden was initially running, right? It was just always these things about, he's this, he's that, right? Same stuff that everybody else was sitting there talking about. It was never anything crazy. But at the very least, like the only time like you really ever get anything somewhat unique be Ben Shapiro, because Ben Shapiro will actually hit against the party sometimes, which I can respect, and I really appreciate that, because like even the thing where he actually sat there and called out Tucker Carlson, right? Because like, you don't ever hear anybody calling out Tucker Carlson. You don't ever hear anybody really. Well, JD Vance is a little bit different, but him saying that Tucker Carlson did a disservice, right? You won't ever see anybody like saying anything like that. But you would see something like that from Ben Shapiro, because at the very least, the one thing I will like say that Ben Shapiro does a really good job on is just like trying to be somewhat balanced. He does a terrible job at it a lot of times with certain things, like certain topics, but outside of that, he does do a really good job. So this is crazy. This is crazy talking about NPCs coming from these guys.
Middle are just exhausted. I'll bet you the voter turnout for people who are independents is like zero. Yeah. Seriously, because it like.
I mean, independent voters.
Independent voters. Yeah. Like because if you're a Democrat, you're jazzed because Kamala and vibes and all that. And if you're a Trump voter, you're jazzed because you got to stop Kamala and vibes and all that. If you're an independent, you're like, when does all this shit just end? Like seriously, like I think that was that has been the vibe in a couple of elections straight, where it's like Americans are just like, can we just be left alone? Like a little normality.
Yeah.
And so,
I think that is what people vote for.
I agree, and that's kind of why I was hoping that there would be a little more normality from President Trump tonight.
In a way, if Kamala goes on to be president, the historic thing about this debate retrospectively will be that it's a bit like Bill Clinton's "the era of big government is over" moment, that she really ran as the government should leave you alone candidate tonight, which is, of course, absurd because she is the vice president.
Trump was right about this, right? He said, I'm going to buy you a MAGA hat.
That's
He's
right. It's an amazing pivot that at least says that some of our actual policy preferences do resonate with the American people. We've stopped advocating for some of the government.
This is what I'm talking about NPC behavior. They don't even realize some of the stuff they're even saying. So are you saying that she's picking she's taking a stance or a policy that supports what the American people want and what everybody believes the conservatives believe? Oh, really? You see what I'm talking about? They don't even understand what they're even sitting there and implying when you actually pay attention to what it is they're saying. It's crazy. It's just crazy.
Should leave you alone positions.
Yeah.
That's I think become a weak spot for conservatives in the last 6 or 8 years, and I think Kamala is showing us that does
She's
still
running
have
to the
some
right. She's running to the right. Well, that coalition that you're describing, Jeremy, which is that Reagan / sort of Bill Clinton / sort of Tony Blair / sort of Dave Cameron. It's not even just in America. It's in the UK too. We kind of mock it now as passé and neoliberal and squishy, and it is all of those things. It also does still seem to kind of resonate with the voters.
Because we use words like neoliberal, and what most people just hear when they hear neoliberal is, I have no idea what you're talking about. Do you mean that you're going to leave me alone and I'll just be able to go to the supermarket and things will be cheap, or what? Like, what do you mean? Like, seriously, you think most people have any idea what the hell the word neoliberal means? No. People who use the word neoliberal have no idea what the word neoliberal
means. We know what it means, and we probably don't like a lot of it. We don't like, just totally laissez-faire cultural hands on the, we don't want to have much more migration. We don't want to
just producing
have
no
some
titanium
weak
at
middle
all.
ground where we kill some babies and not other babies. We don't want to give up the meaning of marriage. I don't like it. I would like a more coherently conservative policy, and I'm sure Bernie and Comrade Kamala in her heart of hearts wants a more leftist policy. But a lot of those voters that we're trying to reach, they don't have the most coherent and consistent political philosophy, and if you can appeal to them, that can be very powerful.
I wanted to just follow up one thing, Ben. You said that I think your Bernie Sanders impression is your best one.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I just,
my
you
Obama
got a few that are kind
great.
of weak, but that one was
Thank
good.
you. My Trump is not great. My Obama is quality.
You have a good Obama. Kamala Harris has a good black woman. I heard her break it out.
I don't think you're the idiot.
That's crazy.
I don't think it's that good.
That's crazy.
I did love Trump's answer on that. If she wants to be black, she can be black. And if she doesn't want to be black, she doesn't have to be black. Does it really matter?
It actually was kind of a sophisticated answer.
It was.
They just weren't letting him have it.
Okay.
Okay, from DailyWire.com subscriber, this one for Ben. Do you think the Jewish men and women around our country fall for the lie that she loves Israel?
Okay, it's time for my answer. You ready for this?
Let's go.
Here we go. Most Jews are not Jewish. Okay, let me explain this thing about Jews. Whenever you see a poll of Jews, what you mean are people who identify as Jews, and Jews, unlike other groups, people who identify as Jews, they're not doing so religiously. If you poll people like, are you Catholic? Typically, the people who say they are Catholic are Catholic. Like they go to church, like they actually pay attention to the things the Pope says.
They were at least baptized.
They
probably don't go to church.
Okay. They take the religion seriously enough that when they are not Catholic anymore, they call themselves lapsed Catholics or atheists. Yeah. Okay, Jews don't do that. So for Jews, they'll be like full non-compliant, God is stupid, like full-on atheistic, anti-Israel kooks. But for those Jews, the reason they say Jew is because what they mean is intersectionally not white. Right, and that is a serious share of like the American Jewish population who identifies as Jewish because it means that they're not part of the white Borg, and also we're not part of the like old anti-Semitic, white people in country clubs thing, right? And so I always differentiate between Jews who care about Jewishness and people who don't care about Jewishness. So for those of us who actually have a dog in the being Jewish fight, we're going to vote like 110% for Donald Trump. Okay, my synagogue, there are I can name them. I think there's 1 to 2. This is a synagogue of 400 families. There may be 1 to 2 Kamala Harris supporters, maybe. Okay, and that's fairly consistent around the Orthodox community. Like we all see through it. I mean, we all know it. If you go down to Florida, every Trump fundraiser is filled with people with yarmulkes, like every single one. There's a reason for that. But one of the great, and by the way, you can tell this in the polls. There's a poll, and it shows. It was a Pew poll came out recently showing what various religious denominations think of people of other religious denominations. And so every religious denomination says they don't like atheism, except the Jews, who are pro-19. They're plus 19 on atheism. Why? Because it turns out that a huge number of people who identify as Jews are, in fact, atheists, right? And so I think it's important to make that distinction, because people get caught up in the, like, Jews as solidarity club for people who all think alike. And it's like, well, no, they're the ones of us who actually take the Bible seriously and care deeply about what happens to Israel and think Kamala Harris is awful on Israel. Awful. Her answer tonight was sheer, absolute, unmitigated trash. Absolute trash. If she says one more, she keeps saying over and over, what we're searching for is an end to the conflict in which there is a hostage deal, and all the hostages are freed, and Israel is still safe, and also there will be a two-state solution, and unicorns will fart energy. And like, what are you talking about? You're talking about negotiating with a terrorist entity to maintain its dominance of a portion of the land in order so that you can then give them a state.
Now, I will say that, right? I did not like her Israel answer, right? Because what she just basically did is she did go back to like essentially the status quo, right? They've been searching for this two-state solution for years now. All right, decades. It's just not going to happen. I seriously doubt it's just going to happen. Like somebody's got to give up something, and it's probably going to have to be the Palestinians. Like I'm sorry. That's just the reality of the matter. Because like the fighting just isn't going to stop unless you do a deep. And people ain't gonna like that word, but like unless you do a deep deprogramming, like Germany did when it came to after World War II with the Nazis, getting the Nazi thing up out of there. You're not changing that situation, seeking a two-state solution. Like that's just, so I don't like that she just essentially did go back to the status quo on that. And so I will give him, I'll give him that is definitely the case, but I don't know. We'll see.
And then peace will break out. Like it's awful. And Tim Walz, by the way, is way worse than Kamala on this. It's an awful ticket on Israel. A truly awful ticket.
I want to know, on the right, we've got these clowns who are anti-Semitic, and they're always coming after me and yelling terrible things. And I want to know, if Jews are so bad for America, why is it the people who say death to America want to kill the Jews? I've never quite understood that. Just asking questions.
One of them, I forget, it was some picture of you, Drew, and one of them was making some argument about how terrible you are. But it was being presented as very objective. But then I looked at the picture, I said, wait, what's that? And they drew a little yarmulke on your bald head.
They didn't.
No, it was just there?
No.
I didn't know. I had no idea.
Listen, we all saw the picture. It was from Backstage Live.
Okay.
And it's all of us sitting in this format. Drew right there, and he for the life of me is wearing a yarmulke. Yeah. And Drew and I had a conversation about this a few days ago over dinner. He said, "Did you see the thing where they put that yarmulke on my head?" I mean, it's kind of funny. They didn't put the yarmulke on his head.
Was that just Providence?
The geniuses at the Daily Wire, where I work, put a Daily Wire, a DW watermark on the video that is a translucent black circle. And it just happened that in that exact... And this is where the anti-Semites are hilarious. I wish it wasn't true. The Groypers are funny as hell.
Yeah,
They're evil.
Evil and hate are fun. It can be funny, yeah.
They believe in a demonic ideology, but they are hilarious. And they found the one frame of the whole show where the watermark landed on Drew's head.
Dude, they're super funny. They made a Hispanic gay guy the leader of their movement.
From now on, I'm wearing this outside my shirt.
Like a bishop.
Now I look like a bishop.
And when you're a bishop, you actually get to wear.
I get to wear the exactly. Then I get the yarmulke.
Yeah, you come full circle. From another DailyWire.com subscriber, what do we do? We should be serious, but this is actually I think, on the hearts and minds of a lot of people. What do we do if Kamala wins? This genuinely feels like we're on the verge of losing the country if the left takes the White House and Congress. So how do we stay calm in the event that Trump loses?
I was at a fundraiser for Republicans in Virginia the other day, and this was on all of their minds. It was, what do we do? First of all, they may not believe that he lost if he did lose, but I think there's obviously a possibility that he could lose. And I just think, this is the kind of country where things go a lot slower than people want them to go, hopefully. And it really just depends on what happens to the Congress, because we could lose the White House but hold Congress and hold the Senate and win the Senate. So there's a lot of different outcomes, and I think not panicking would be a good idea. I got asked once recently, somebody on one of the All Access shows, should we revolt? Should we get our guns? And I thought, could you volunteer to serve at a polling place first before you go for your guns? You know, I think there are a lot of things to do to be active in American politics that still work, that are still there, that we should start to take advantage of.
Also, you know, this election is very, very important. They're all really important. You're not going to win every election from now until forever.
Right.
Like, you are going to lose sometimes, no matter what. That's just a reality. So that's all kind of baked into the cake of the way the system works. So the way I look at it is, I mean, it'll be terrible if she wins, and if they win everything, which I don't think will happen, even worse. I mean, really devastating consequences. But what do we do? What do we give up and move? Where are you going to move to?
Right.
You get ready for 2028. You get ready for the midterms. You focus on your own family, your own community. You keep.
Isn't it interesting, right? What happened to the country's going to be destroyed? What happened to all this catastrophe and whatnot? That I got distracted. I was doing something on the screen and didn't realize, you can't see what I'm doing. All the bad stuff that's going to happen. Crazy that we move on and we focus on the 2028 elections.
Living and fighting.
Donald Trump would say, fight.
Americans, I feel we have a ton of really great virtues and particular skills. But one area that we lack in is we sometimes lack in historical sense, because we're a young country and we were founded in a unique way that had all these ramifications for the rest of the world, and we kind of forget how history works. I just happened, coincidentally, providentially, to give this lecture on my favorite Italian poet, Dante. It was specifically on...
Who?
I don't know if you heard of him. He's this guy...
Tell me all about him.
Well,
2 hours.
Actually...
Well, recite his cantos.
You can get that if you listen to my lecture on the ISI YouTube channel. But it was on his politics, because this is a guy who rose to the highest level of the Florentine government and then immediately lost everything. The Pope attacked him, killed the Pope's army guys, killed his friends, took his property, sent him out of his city. He never returned. Civil war was the recurring theme in his political life. And Dante had to make sense of this. And he's not the only one. Great political thinkers have had to make sense of this, going back to Boethius and before that. If you are Christian, though, you believe that there is a meaning to history. You believe that there's a beginning to the story, the creation. You believe there's a turning point, which is the incarnation. And you believe there's an end. And we know how the story ends if you're a Christian. You believe that this world, this fallen world of politics, is subject to principalities and power and spiritual wickedness in high places. You believe also that rulers are here for our own good, and that a civil order and justice and law is here for our own good, and we need to do our very best to establish those conditions for justice. But it's going to be really unpleasant a lot of the time. And I fear sometimes, because we have a short revolutionary view of history, we think that it's all going to be roses.
And it's weird that Christians who have a God who was crucified by the religious people, the political people, by the crowd, by his friends, that they believe that everything's going to come up roses.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works.
Well, I think that on a very practical level, there are a few things. One, the Senate matters an awful lot.
Yeah.
And people who are not paying attention to the Senate races, bad mistake. Yeah. Right now, the Republicans basically have guaranteed 50 seats because of Jim Justice in West Virginia. They're very likely to win the seat in Montana, where Tim Sheehy appears to be running away with that race. That means 51, which is great. You're going to need a little bit more than that, because you want some sort of cushion, because we've had situations in the recent past, actually, where Republicans had a 51-vote majority, and you get one person to peel off and join the Democrats in a complete... Jim Jeffords did this when George W. Bush was president, actually. And you could see something like that. You really want more than that. I, on a personal level, have actually been doing something I've never done before, which I'm actually going out and actively campaigning with a series of Senate candidates in swing states. I already went and campaigned with Captain Sam Brown over in Nevada, who's a wonderful person and a real American hero. I'm going to be campaigning in Pennsylvania with Dave McCormick. I'm going to be hopefully campaigning with Eric Hovde in Wisconsin and Mike Rogers in Michigan and with Bernie Moreno in Ohio. Like, that's my hope. I want to go campaign with all those people. And if you can, you should go work for those Senate candidates, because the worst thing would be if the Democrats get a triumvirate here. If they get all three, if they Congress and Senate and the presidency, they will do damage that is, in fact, permanent in nature. They will add 2 states to the Senate of the United States and stack it with another 4 Democratic senators, making their majority near permanent. They will kill the filibuster. They will make changes to the actual system of American government that are incredibly dangerous. And so the question becomes, okay, let's say all that happens. then what? And then the answer becomes what always was the case, which is you're going to see individual states that just refuse to take the mandates of the federal government.
Right.
That's going to be the next step. And you're already seeing. By the way, when the left protests this, it's like, well, you guys have already done this. It's called sanctuary state. You do it all the time, right? You did this with regard to marijuana enforcement. Like, you guys are constantly ignoring the laws.
Jesus Christ, bro. So here we go back to like the whole doomsday kind of thing. It's just it's so crazy. It really is. Like, I just don't I don't understand it. I really don't. Because like sanctuary cities just said that they just won't cooperate with the federal. They just won't help the federal government in identifying and deporting people. Like, that like, they're not required to do so. The federal government can't compel you to wasn't that the whole point about, you know, individual state rights that they so like proudly push for? Isn't that what they wanted with Roe v. Wade? Oh, it should be a states issue. Sanctuary cities is a state issue. It's up to the states whether they want to participate in doing the whole deportation stuff or not, or just looking for illegal immigrants that are like, you know, seeking asylum and all that other stuff. Like, that's crazy to me. See, what's good, you know, good for me is not good for thee.
That you don't think ought to apply to you. And so you'll just see that from the right. The right will just say, listen, you want to come enforce your garbage tax law? You come down here and try it. Like, see how it goes for you. You're already seeing this with the immigration laws in Texas and what Governor Abbott has been doing down there. So that'll be the next step. The nice thing about the United States, it's really big. It's really decentralized. States do have an enormous amount of power. And I think that I was a lot more pessimistic about these sorts of solutions when I was living in a blue state. When I was living in California, it's like, oh my God, there's no place to go. And then it turns out there are, in fact, a lot of places to go. You can take your whole company to Tennessee. You can move down to Florida, right? And so that will give you a base from which to fight back using the mechanisms of the system. So the thing that I hate is when people say this is the last election. If we lose this election, it's all over. And invariably, the people who are telling you this are totally lying.
There's never a last election until the end of the world.
You know, it's a thing that I noticed. I noticed that literally everyone who said that if Biden won in 2020, it would be the last election and everything didn't matter and the world would end. They all went on the air that after the election they were still on the air. It was super weird. Yeah. None of them quit their jobs and decided to go to farming. Right? Like, literally not one of them. It was amazing. Conservatives say this in the same way that libs say that if a conservative is elected, they're going to move to Canada.
That's right.
Right.
You don't know the future. No one knows the future. If Kamala Harris wins, we certainly know it will be bad. There will be policies that make life worse in the country. There will be policies that damage particularly our values. It's possible that there will be policies, Ben, to your point, that actually reorder how the government works in this country. That could certainly happen. That much is certain. It will be bad from a policy perspective if Kamala Harris wins. Beyond that, the extent to which it will be difficult is completely unknown. It could certainly be the case that Donald Trump losing the presidency in 2024 could be the beginning of something really good in the country. A reorientation. You know, Donald Trump has been, this is our third presidential election where we've marched into battle behind Donald Trump. If he loses and even if they cheat, his job is to ascend the presidency. If he fails to ascend the presidency, if he loses, you know, then it will be a good thing not to follow him into a fourth presidential election. Is it possible? You say there's always a next election. To the extent that you mean history continues, of course that's true. Yeah. Maybe there's not a next election. Right. I mean, systems of governments completely change.
They're talking about gutting the court.
We could go into a Soviet-style Great Terror where we spend 50 years under a dark cloud. The worst thing can happen. I don't think that it's likely that it will happen. I think that's the smallest % chance of what the outcome could be. But it's possible. It's possible that Donald Trump losing could be the beginning of something very good that happens. You can't be cavalier about that because what we know for a fact is that bad policies will happen. Yeah. And you don't lose by you don't win by losing. Yeah. It may be the case that you accidentally do every now and then win by losing. But as we say often, luck is a bad business model.
Right. Sometimes you lose with Goldwater in 64, and then you get Reagan in 80. But there's an awful long 16-year period between
that's right. and a revolutionary period. That's right. And you can't be so cavalier as to not do your job in the moment. Our job in the moment is to support Donald Trump for president. Our job in the moment is to do everything within our power to try to stop the left from having the White House for 4 more years. Yep. Should that fail, though, it is important to remember that at the extremes, things can be very bad.
Yep.
Most likely what will happen is we'll all get back up, we'll all go back to work, we'll all have to start reorienting, we'll have to start adapting as we always do as human beings. We'll have to find a way, Matt, to your point, to focus on our family, to focus on our faith, to focus on the smallest units of government, which in the end are the foundational units of government. We'll have to remember to be optimistic, not because the future is promised to be good, the future might be very bad, but because belief in God is a fundamentally optimistic act. And we'll have to figure out where the fight is and go fight it.
And we have to make more movies like Matt so that we can change people's minds. And change
That's right. The battle is ultimately a cultural
It's always a cultural
battle. You know, a lot of people are very upset about abortion. I'll end the night with this. People are very upset about the fact that the abortion situation in the country has changed. We didn't have a plan for what would happen after Roe v. Wade.
Or for when the abortion pill became the chief mechanism of abortion.
That's right. And now that we're on the other side of both of those events in rapid succession, abortion is a much more complex political issue. It's not a more complex moral issue. The moral issue hasn't changed at all. Abortion is a true horror, a true blight. But the political situation has changed dramatically. It used to be the case that you could have a politically absolutist view of abortion, which is not the same as a morally absolutist view. I have a morally absolutist view of abortion. But politics only allowed us to have an absolutist political view because of Roe. And what I mean by that is we could elect people who were proponents of abortion, like Donald Trump. People who've been pro-choice their entire life.
Before he ran.
Like Donald Trump. But it didn't matter because in a situation with Roe v. Wade, as long as he opposed Roe v. Wade, this one concept, then he was pro-life. And now on the other side, we have this complicated moment where the very person who secured us the greatest pro-life victory of all time now isn't morally advocating positions that make the pro-life community happy. But that's the nature of the new political reality. And people want to know, how do we win? How do we win now?
They're talking about the fact that Trump isn't like all in on the whole abortion thing, right? This is going to be a state issue. God, and I got these stuffs coming back in. I gotta figure out where these leak is before my stuff goes out. All right, let me think about this. I'm going here, but yeah, no, like they're you see. Getting him, I'm telling you, that abortion thing is gonna come back and haunt him. 1,000%. That abortion thing is gonna come back to haunt him, for sure. Because it is gonna if they were saying things were close, like now, like I said, I'm pretty sure Harris is gonna win, just because there's just no other way. There's just no way it could be anything else. Like she got this man to essentially call his vice president a liar, turn on the people who were like so adamant about the pro-abortion thing, because there's a lot of them. There's a big support in our party for like by pro-abortion, I mean pro killing of the abortion right. So I know I am botching the human language. Do forgive me. But let me just, I gotta do this. But for the people that actually, what's the word I'm looking for? That want to just see abortion, the ability to have an abortion completely removed from the country. There's actually a lot of them to where like it would most certainly matter. It certainly does matter. So it's pretty interesting. It is pretty interesting. That he's gonna take the bullet on that, but he might not have a choice. That's the other thing too. Don't want to alienate too much of the women votes, you know. Bro, how much pyrite was like stuck in here? Jesus Christ. I'm trying to like unmess up my thing here. Come on. There we go. Grab you now. Okay, it looks like we got it unstuck. Sorry. Still messing with this build here. get a little messy at times. But let's go back to what they're doing. So he definitely alienated his voters. So let's see what happens.
We get rid of the people who don't have the absolutist moral view that we have. You know, do we have to, is it better to lose elections standing for what's right? And those are, it's easy to kind of be glib about that. Those can be, in certain moments, very complex questions. There will be times where we may have to choose to lose political power.
And even Trump is making this point. Where
That's right.
Got to win elections, guys. Just let me go, you know.
But the ultimate point is this. It took half a century to overturn Roe. It will now take half a century to fight the next battle for abortion, which is, I believe, fundamentally a cultural battle. We actually have to change the way people relate to the issue of life, which is different than changing the way that they deal with the issue of the Supreme Court vis-a-vis Roe v. Wade. Yeah. We figured out how to fight that battle. We won it. We're going to have to figure out how to fight this battle and win it. Some battles can't be won immediately. And so whatever comes of this election, we're going to have to steel ourselves for the fact that every day that we're alive on this earth, we have to fight for our values.
Yeah.
That fight will never, that fight changes from moment.
Which is why panic is always the wrong thing.
Panic is always the wrong
thing. We have to play the long game. We have to play the long game.
That's right. And it's why Matt's movie matters, because he's fighting in the cultural sphere. This movie, Am I Racist, comes out in theaters on Friday, nationwide. If you looked for tickets maybe 3 weeks ago and it wasn't playing near you, we're up to 1,500 screens, starting at only 200 4 weeks ago. So if you checked the internet and the movie wasn't playing near you 3 weeks ago, it probably is playing near you today. If you look today and it's not playing near you, it almost certainly will be tomorrow. The movie is now in wide national release, and the movie matters so much. And it matters because it isn't a classic documentary. It is a true culturally relevant piece of entertainment content that uses tools cultivated by the left when they weren't in hegemonic power. Tools like mockery, tools like trolling, tools that people like Sacha Baron Cohen or Stephen Colbert or early Jon Stewart really pioneered. And Matt is the first and only person in our movement to figure out how to effectively turn those tools now that they're the ones in power and we're the ones outside of power. He's figured out how to use those tools to the same great effect that they were using them 20 years ago. And for that reason alone, you must go see this film.
Agreed.
And because the culture is where we have to fight the fight. So go to amiracist.com, grab your tickets. Head over to dailywire.com if you're not a subscriber. Promo code FIGHT gets you 47% off of your subscription, which is how you can support all of the work that we're doing and engage with all of our wonderful content. If you haven't registered to vote, go register. If you haven't volunteered at your polling place, go volunteer at your polling place. If you haven't talked somebody else into going to vote, talk them into going to vote. Put one foot in front of the other. Keep doing the work. Lift up thine eyes. Fix them on the things that we have been promised, and don't worry so much about the things that we haven't. And just know that what a beautiful thing that we get to live and we get to breathe and we get to fight for our values. The fight changes, the values don't. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We hope to see you next time.
Okay, well, that's that. See, one thing I predict you're gonna start catching later on too is these people's tones are gonna start changing as well. You're gonna start seeing that all is doom and gloom once they start realizing that Harris is most certainly gonna win. Right, all of a sudden now there's all of these plans for the future. Right, there's an actual future that's going to be had where we can work on, get into Congress in 2026 and get into presidency in 2028. Right, there's no longer going to be this apocalypse. Country's going to be destroyed. It's going to turn into Marxists and whatever other like weird nonsense they want to try and employ. And why? Jesus Christ, hold on. I have a coal leak. Where do I have a coal leak at? Right here. It's right here. Okay, there you go. I should have done that. Let me just make sure now that we're still looking good. Yep, differentiator got plenty of fuel. This is why I like these long tracks here, because you make any changes and stuff that just kills your conveyor belt supply, you can change it up. I need to figure something else out for this though. I need to get another use for the cryo fluid. That's kind of crazy that one. Oh, well, I mean, technically it's two. So I guess, yeah, so two of them would supply it. But I had built two because I needed to be able to use the titanium at a steady clip because it's really efficient. Titanium-wise, I did not know it was going to be quite that efficient. But Lord and behold, there we go. So what I'm going to want to do now is, right, so I can just go ahead and get the supply back to going here. How much electricity is generated? Under 1,000, and that's just because the steam generator isn't. Both steam generators aren't getting any power, or the pyrite, but that differentiator generates a hell of a lot of electricity, so it's nothing to worry about. You'll see the power supply jump. We're at 800 bits, and it should jump down. We're about to cut off the stream very soon too, by the way, just so you guys know. Feel like it's a weekend almost, man. And like, yep, see, we're at 11K, and then once this fills up and starts overflowing into the second one, should provide us even more. Let's see. And there we go. See, now we're at 1.6. Yep. All good stuff there. And everything is producing properly. We was able to kind of change that up a bit. Yeah, everything's good. We're producing everything we need. I do want to go ahead and let the supplies go. Because what I need a lot more silicone. Isn't there like a really silicone? It's a graphite. I don't know if I have enough for. I mean, I guess technically I do, but I don't know if I want to. Do I really want to go through all that? I guess so. Why not? Let's just see how the sand supply. Let's see how the sand supply maintains itself. No, it's not going to work. I don't think it's going to work. It's like just barely. Or maybe it does. Maybe it's just barely enough coming from here where it'll still work just fine even without this, even with this siphoning off, I think. I might want to look for more coal real quick. But then I'd have to route that mofo all the way up there. Well, I guess I can do that. Yeah, because this is going to eventually run out. I can already see it now. Okay. I should be able to just get away with one machine, though. We'll do two, just make use of that block. All right, this is the last thing I'm doing here, and then let's see if anybody's saying anything else. That was nice. That was a nice little debate there. Oh, Megan Kelly got some stuff to say. Let's see what she got.
And now it's probably 50-50, they say. So, like it or not, and no sane football fan is going to listen to what Taylor Swift thinks, but she moves a zeitgeist needle, so to speak. And unfortunately, young people, oh man, it's just scary. It's just scary. I'm in New York City. By the way, I never want to be here.
I don't deny
again.
her power in the music industry, but I just don't think somebody's going to pull the lever for Kamala Harris because she told them to.
Let's hope not.
I just can't. That's just my armchair opinion. I could be wrong. I've been wrong about plenty of things, but I don't believe that. Here is what Kamala Harris and her team are doing tonight with a drone. There's some video of a drone with a message in the sky. It reads, Madam Vice President. Everyone's taking pictures. And then wait for it. The vice disappears.
Look at that.
With the Madam
So
President.
can I just comment on this whole media thing, this whole blitz? And you have to give them credit for this. They're being very creative. Almost every time I open my laptop, I got a Kamala Harris. I hate it. I got a Kamala Harris ad that place. They're putting it in very selective and smart locations. Her campaign has probably put together the best game plan for a quarterback who sucks. I'll use the football analogy one more time. She's incompetent. She doesn't know the playbook. She's not talented, but they've got the best playbook to beat the other team, and they're staying.
We're going to drag her into the end zone.
Right. Yes, they're figuring out the thing that they have, and they call it the brotherly shove instead of brotherly love, where quarterback gets the ball and the whole team pushes him forward, which used to be illegal. My point is, they're finding the right places to gain ground, to gain, let's say, votes. Again, battle state. I will tell you, I believe this election is coming down to Pennsylvania. That's why Trump should have stayed on fracking for an hour, because it was Pennsylvania that was going to get hurt the most by the.
No, he shouldn't have stayed on fracking. He would have actually set us. Just to be clear, right? He would have set himself up for failure if he had sat there and he stayed on. Nexter, what's going on? He would have murdered himself if he kept on going on fracking. Because to be clear, right, the Biden administration has pushed a lot of licensing on the whole fracking thing and got Pennsylvania up on a lot of drilling, basically. So this idea that he should have just been staying on fracking, he would have just it would have been another trap that he would have just walked himself right into. Now, whether or not Harris would have gladly pushed that on him, is to be seen. But that's just what that is. There's not much. I really can't think of much angles he can really push at this point to beat Harris on. He can't really pin her. He can't pin the vice president blame for much of anything. The vice president doesn't have any real power. They can't make laws. They can't sign laws. You know what I'm saying? They could be a tie-breaking vote. And she burnt them on that one point about being the tie-breaking vote for the I can't believe I don't even remember the name of the bill, right? But being the tiebreaker vote for the bill that allowed Pennsylvania to be able to do more fracking, like that's all she got to just push. She could just sit there. She could just sit there and say, well, Trump's Republican Party wanted to keep Pennsylvania from fracking. I had to be the tiebreaker vote as vice president, right? It wasn't the Congress, the House and the Senate couldn't allow Pennsylvania to frack and then, make a bill to allow Pennsylvania to frack and then send it to the president. The Republicans tried to stop it, and I had to interject. I had to sit there and I had to go in with my tiebreaker vote to allow Pennsylvania to frack. That's all she just got to keep bringing up over and over. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's a trap. Don't. Well, I mean, listen to him, right? Because at this point, bro, whatever Trump does, he just keep doing what he's doing. It's gonna be the boys on a losing path.
Her fracking, original OG fracking ban that she walked back recently, but that's where I believe this election will be won or lost in Pennsylvania, and fracking matters to those folks.
Here's the final indignity of ABC. Guess who else is booked on Kimmel tonight? The bookend to their debate. Not just George Conway, Jane Fonda.
Okay. Yeah, it's anti-American. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable what Trump walked into tonight. He should never do that again. Republicans should never do that again. There should never be another general election, presidential debate, or Republican primary debate on ABC News. Ever. Period. And if any candidate agrees to that, they should have to answer to Republican voters why they intentionally tried to sink their chances by agreeing to go into such a lion's den. It's just, the deck is stacked, and there's only so much any human can do. Trump, of course, is claiming victory anyway. We'll see. We'll see some polls. We'll see. I've got my doubts about whether her exaltation and exuberance.
My God, like, you just, what they say, can't handle the heat, stay out the kitchen. I just don't understand why people why this is even a thing. Like, you didn't like the questions they were asking, like, they were pretty pointed. Like, they was digging into Harris about how you kept flip-flopping on a lot of stuff. But once again, right, as vice president, there's nothing you can really pin her on for all the other stuff besides her flip-flopping positions, which she could just always say just because she learned more, and just seeing it as an issue. Like, it could easily be that we're pushing the environment and stuff, but when push come to shove, like when we was dealing with the existential crisis with oil prices skyrocketing and stuff, we had to sit there, we had to pull the trigger, right? That it's that easy. They could be like, oh, okay, shoot, yeah. So, like, I don't know.
Is going to last for very long. Eric, great to see you.
You too, Megan. Congratulations. Great show, by the way.
Thank you very much. Oh, and thanks to all of you. I'd love to know what you think. You've heard what I think and what our guests think. Just send me an email. We have well over 1 million watching us on YouTube and plenty more on podcasts and so on. So I'd be delighted to get your thoughts before we go on the air tomorrow. We'll read some of them. You can email me at Megan, MEGYN, @MeganKelly.com. And just let me know what you thought. Who won? How did she do? How did Trump do? Does it move the needle? And what'd you think of the Taylor endorsement? And what'd you think of ABC? We're back tomorrow. We'll have more coverage. I'm sure the media meltdown in her favor will be disgusting and sycophantic. Between now and then, we'll have that covered for you as well. And we'll go over what the snap polls are saying, as well as some of these other debate moments that we didn't quite get to tonight. Don't miss that. We will see you then with our friends from the Fifth Column. See you then, and good night.
All right, well, that's that. I'm actually going to go ahead and actually change this. Oh, shit. Destiny's actually back up. Let's see what it's doing.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, what did I walk into?
You know what? Keep my mother's name out of your mouth. What else? So you're in favor of 7-month, 8th month, 9-month abortions, huh?
All the way up to 48 months, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What else is there? You're in favor of the Ukraine war. Are you in favor of Zelensky going all the way to Moscow?
Like with the Ukrainian army? Sure, why not?
Oh my God! Let's just blow up the whole world with nukes. That's what Destiny. What's your real name? Because it certainly isn't your destiny. I think your destiny is to be in a straitjacket. You're so damn dumb.
Do you think so?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thanks for the productive conversation.
Well, I think just give Donald Trump 6 months and you might be in one.
Okay. I'll do my best. All right. Okay. Adrian, I love you. I'm going to sleep soon, but it's been fun.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
you're
it definitely
real
has.
tired. You're getting real tired.
Okay, my dude.
Sorry for being so fast. I just hate that guy.
No, my dude. Time out, man. Time out. We're kind of, we need to
All right, I'll take it slow.
Is that the Elon Musk guy? Or the fake Elon Musk guy? Is that what?
Oh my God, real funny. This guy's resorting to mom jokes instead of policy. He's just like.
I mean,
Harris.
you're the
He
one
has
who
no
kind of brought it
substance
up. Though.
policy.
Let's be real here. I mean, if we're gonna have a good standard here, you kind of.
All I did was brought up his wife, and then he brought up my mother. Yeah, he didn't even bring up. Well,
okay, I'm gonna need to.
Yeah. See.
By the way, thank you for entertaining the conversation. I understand your humor more than ever now. I mean, look, with you, nothing is off limits, which is absolutely fucking hilarious in this case. I mean, there's certainly a bit of a pain threshold with me, but that's hilarious. That was epic. That was epic. Thank you for.
Thanks a lot. I do my best. Have fun. Good luck. Be careful, guys. Jesus Christ.
Beautiful. I wish I could have caught that. We're gonna catch that later. We gotta. I'm hoping they.
What policies do they want?
I'm hoping they cut up that
no.
that video for
When I
sure.
say policies, I mean executive orders from the press. Like, okay. All right. I love you guys. It's been fun. I will come back.
Everybody's getting offline, man. Is it really that late? Maybe 10:30. Well, that's what you call it. That'd be my time zone. Oh, it's like, is it 12 o'clock in the morning? I'm trying to zoom in on his thing to see.
Everything under control.
Okay.
The media is. Oh, that's the guy I just talked to.
It's 12 in the morning for him, so I get it.
All right. Have fun. Be careful, guys. Rip. Wait, is there anybody I can host right now on YouTube?
We was looking at Destiny's thing here. So Let me see what I can do here.
David Pacman. Okay.
Oh, is David Pacman still on? Could look at that and see
Oh,
what.
Sitch and Adam. I wonder how those guys are going to try to spin it for Donald Trump completely dominating tonight.
Let me see, bro. Where's my thing at? Oh, it's right here.
David's not even streaming right now. Is Josiah streaming anywhere? Pondering politics. Nope. Okay. Well, I love you guys. Riverino, cappuccino, poppuccino, hoppuccino, moppuccino, cappuccino, 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 my diners. I will catch you guys.
Here's my thing. Okay, here we go.
Careful.
Let me
Don't
just
die.
take a look here. Everything else looks good. Okay. Yep. Exit. Everybody's cutting off. Okay. Let me. Now all I'm doing now is just waiting for the supplies to run up, and we'll be good then. Although my silicon is so slow. I don't even see the. Oh, it's over here. I was like, bro, I can't even see the pipeline, bro. Why is it so slow? Oh, there's literally no coal. Well, I did move that over here, but I guess I need to bring it over here instead. So let's do this. All right. Yep, that looks like a good distance between the two, and go like that. And then what I need to do is I'm going to just kill that, so I can just get this this conveyor belt to empty out, and then that'll be that. All right, once this conveyor belt empties out and I fix this, we'll be done. We'll be good to go. But yeah. Yes, that's it. Everybody's. Why hasn't she done it? She hasn't done it because she's vice president. Like, I don't know. I don't know why people are like pretending like the vice president can do anything. Explains that Jersey. Oh, Jesus Christ. Shocking Trump v. Harris debate. Stu does. I don't even know what it is, but intense debate. Spec 0. Is there anything else? Uzu Adult Swim. The heck is this? The new Uzumaki show? A 10-minute rant. Yes, a 10-minute rant that nails it. Benny the Butcher. Andrew versus whatever. Oh, jeez. Charlie Kirk. Let's get him like 2 minutes, and then we're going to go and cut it off.
Happening. Ducks and geese are definitely happening. I think all of this underscores the fact that we have a mass immigration problem. We have too many, too fast, too unvetted, and people know in their guts they're sick of it. They're sick of walking down the street next to people they don't recognize and they don't know and they don't speak the language of. Sorry, if you think that's racist, I guess, like, whatever, keep running with that. I think the American people are sick of that line. I think they know in their gut and they're fed up. And I think, again, we underestimate how unpopular the Democrats' virtue signaling stance is. And I think it's a winner. No, if we're talking about that, to your point, Charlie, we are winning. Absolutely. And Blake, to your earlier point, there is going to be, I think we're going to be vindicated on this story 100%. The media totally jumped the gun saying it was debunked and false and all this stuff. These Haitians are into cat eating. We all know it. So, you know, we're going to find out more.
Okay. Hey, just so we're clear too, my next Oh, that's unfortunate. I hit my quota. Just so we're clear, we're gonna be doing our next stream. We're gonna be looking at Charlie Kirk's involvement in January 6th because we came across the transcript when he was questioned about it, because apparently he had a lot more involvement than I knew about, and I found it interesting. We'll talk about that on the next stream. We'll also talk about what else was it? There was another big topic. Oh yeah, then we probably won't even dive into Tim Pool stuff anymore, because at this point we'll probably watch a Legal Eagle video just so you guys can see it. As far as my thoughts on the matter, but the Charlie Kirk thing is going to be the most interesting, and then we're going to bring our AI debater back into the fray. But just real quick, because already you saw we walked into something crazy about the American people are apparently tired of walking next to people who can't speak English. Okay. But let's talk about this cat eating. Let's see this. I remember this. This was a fake photo. Like somebody tied the incidents completely separate from each other, because this photo has nothing to do with the whole cat thing. Let's see what's going on. A day before the much anticipated debate, blah blah blah, with arms on X claiming that Harris was responsible for illegal Haitian immigrants ravaging Ohio Springfield. They latched on to report that an Ohio woman, so it was a woman, arrested for killing and eating a cat, because I do remember about that. Social media was up in arms, blah, 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 blah. And of course, they give me nothing else. But what actually happened, right? Social media posts made by right-wingers claim that the residents in Springfield, Ohio, were saying that Haitians are eating the pets of other residents. One such incident did actually take place last month, as reported by Fox News. An Ohio woman was arrested after she killed a cat and then began eating it in front of the neighbors. Blah, 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 charged with injuring animals, prohibitions concerning companion animals, and disorderly conduct, the report said. The woman reportedly stomped on the cat's head to kill it before she ate it in front of the residents, but there was no evidence to prove whether she is a Haitian woman. The video of the incident went viral over the weekend, and Kamala Harris was held responsible for immigrants eating cats in residential areas. Another photo of a Haitian man walking around with an entire goose added to the online hatred. Yes, I'm saying, the photo was just literally found the random ass photo. Republicans shared the video, blah, 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 extending, blah, blah, blah. No reports of any stealing of pets. The Springfield Police Division, right, which would be the people that, if homeowners' pets was all of a sudden being stolen, would have been the ones getting the police reports, and they would have been the first ones to tell you, right? Think back to how back when there was a huge rare earth metal. I don't know if y'all remember this, but that crunch with rare earth metals, where they were stealing the exhaust from people's cars, because the exhausts were made of had some really rare earth metal in them to help them. Not exhaust. It was the converter. I think it was the converter or something. I'm not a car person, so do forgive me on that. But it was the converter or something that's it uses a rare earth metal in it in order to help it not pollute as bad, my understanding. And and then people were just ripping these things out of people's car. They go up wait till you go to bed at night, and then literally come in your car and saw it off, or whatever it is they'll do real quick to just rip it out and then bounce. And then your car, then when you go to turn your car on, it's making a crazy noise, and that's because the whole catalytic converter, I think is what it's called, was missing. But needless to say, right, the effect still applies, right? When there's an uptick in things like that, there's an uptick of police reports, and the police are well aware of it. So you just go straight to the police. Are you getting reports of this? It'd be kind of crazy if people were having their pets stolen and nobody's reporting anything, right? Wouldn't that be weird? Wouldn't that be weird? But here we are, right? They are still aware of the social media posts, but that was not something on their radar. They claimed to appear to originate from a commenter at a local city meeting who said migrants were grabbing ducks from the park to kill and eat. Why can't I? Oh, I'm tripping. I'm on the wrong one. That's why. They were then shared on the social media platforms where Republicans amplifying them. It's all coming to your city if Kamala Harris is elected in November. Blah, blah, blah. So that's it, right? So, no, and then more of that, right? Please tell me that somebody got more. Okay, there we go. In the span of a few days, racist smear against migrants of color made it from the fever swamps online, blah, blah, blah. The rant came as Harris trolled Trump about his rallies. Encouraging Americans to listen to talk about Hannibal Lecter. It's about windmill conspiracies. Oh, yeah, saying the windmills give you cancer. That was another one. That was another one where I was like, oh, yeah, she's definitely baiting this man. And then sure enough, right? Is getting the man caught up. Let me just look at the supply real quick. Only 1K? Sheesh, man. This silicon thing is gonna be the death of me. But let's see who leave early out of boredom, right? So she was attacking him on multiple fronts. He's lying. He's talking about something crazy like cancer gives you windmills, and his rallies it ain't shit. That she wrapped all of that in that one statement and zinged them. And then it was like, and then he brought up about the Haitians eating cats. They're eating the pets of people that live in them, and this is what's happening to our country. Let's see. Reach out. Yeah, then the city manager, he told us that he had no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, blah, blah, blah. People on television say my dog was taken and used for food, he added. It's unclear what reports the former president was referencing since the pandemic. Has been pushing racist lie, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, right. That's just, according to two sources close to Trump, it was advised of recent days that if he came during he should pivot to the story of an 11-year-old boy who was killed during a highly publicized auto collision in which the driver was a Haitian immigrant. Yeah, but he didn't do it. And the thing is that she can prevent him from bringing up those good stories. See, now that would have been good to bring up about the Haitian immigrants, right? If you want to sit there, you want to demonize them. Instead, she sat there and she poked at the man to get him to throw him off balance. And that's what I'm saying. This key play move. And so now he can't make that point because now he has to sit there and he's enraged and he's got to, come up with whatever like random ass stories that he wants to sit there push. But that's that. So we're done here. Can I close this? Yep. We're done here. Oh yeah, what did he say? She gave our military weight to the Taliban. I don't know what the hell he was talking about, but I forgot I wrote that there. Funny, but all right. But that's it for this. That's it for this stream. We are now officially picking back up our schedule. So Thursday we will be on. We will be, but it's our religion stream, so just keep that in mind, right? I think I got a good thing now for reading the Dead Sea Scrolls. If this one doesn't work, then what I'm gonna do is I am gonna just end up spending the money and buying a book. If I could find a good one that goes into the Dead Sea Scrolls, I don't want to. As a matter of fact, I take that back. What I'm probably gonna end up doing is instead I'll probably have to look for something else. Maybe we're just gonna start watching YouTube videos and random stuff, but then at that point, then we're just gonna switch over to just reading the Quran because the Dead Sea Scrolls is hard. My goal. I'm looking for a source that's gonna show me the Dead Sea Scrolls, preferably in readable format, i.e., I understand the special characters and stuff like that, but like if there's a way to get to have it so that the AI or the voice, the thing that reads out loud to you, isn't tripping up and saying just like really crazy things just because of the way those special characters are denoting. Like if they just colors or something would have been nice. But outside of that, if I could just find a source that had just the Dead Sea Scrolls, just the scrolls that are not in the Bible, because there's a good decent amount of them that's copied or are also reflected in the Bible as is, and so like I would like to not have to like have those going through, but I guess in the end I'll just accept it as is. It won't matter, just as long as I get the Dead Sea Scrolls, and then we'll go into the Quran. But with that being said, that's all I essentially have. There's nothing else really much for me to really say, but we'll be picking it back up Thursday. I'll try to clip this up as much as I can. But yeah, the debate was crazy. Debate was crazy in the sense of like the debate tactics that she was doing. Clearly got the man. She didn't hit him where I really think she could have done, but now that I know that was the last presidential debate, it makes sense now. They were playing it safe, and I think they did just enough to hedge the needle over to her side. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the stream off. You guys take care.
Will Almighty ever stop being trash? Can he ever not be sorry? Find out next time on Almighty's stream.